Okay, so I think we're going to get started. Just quickly, just to make sure that everyone can hear me, can everyone please raise their hand with the little hand icon you should be able to see in your dashboard. Okay, brilliant. I can see lots of raised hands. Thank you. That looks great. We're experiencing really high numbers of you joining, so please bear with us, but hopefully we don't have any technical glitches. Okay, so just to get us started, to introduce myself, I am a Senior Partnerships Manager at Governors for Schools and a governor myself at a primary academy in Kent. We're delighted to have some fantastic speakers on the webinar today. I will just put up a slide now which will detail the webinars that we have. So these are the people we have on the call. Thank you so much for being on this webinar, and to all of you working in schools and with schools and as governors to keep learning going. So just to quickly run through the agenda, I'm going to speak for 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to hand over to Jennifer King at Microsoft, who's going to talk a little bit about Office 365, accessing it, provisioning and security. Jennifer's then going to hand over to Henry Massey, who is Chair of Trustees at Cornerstone Academy Trust, who's going to talk about using Teams as a governing board, including setting up, safeguarding, collaborating over the platform. And then it will come back to me and there'll be a chance to ask questions. If you've got questions throughout the webinar, please do ask away. We have Alan on the line as well, who will be answering them as we go to try and make sure we get through as many as we can. And then we'll have 10 minutes or so at the end to take any further questions. So just to introduce this, governing boards can go digital. As there will be a lot of governors on this call, you may have already seen the Department for Education guidance, which says that governance should continue. Of course, that will probably not be in the same way that it would be happening in normal times. And the agenda will be changed, but governance should be carrying on as schools are still open, albeit to just children or key workers. So as meetings can't be held in person, we're seeing a massive shift towards meetings happening via technology, so via platforms such as Microsoft Teams. So we thought this would be a really good way to share with you how you can do this. Just a couple of things to bear in mind. Confidentiality is a key consideration for all governing boards. So thinking about how your data is stored, how it is shared. If the meeting is recorded, where is this file kept? How are governors storing information at home? And are governors ensuring meetings are happening in their home without others present? So it's always very good to check in with your governing board just to ensure that your confidentiality is continuing. And of course, safeguarding must continue when recruiting new governors. So if you are appointing a governor to the board, then DBS checks should be carrying on in place. And there is advice through the government website to advise on how this can happen using technology to bridge the gap of physical documentation. So I'm just going to quickly run a poll. So if you can all answer, it should be coming up on your screens now. Just a few more of you to vote. Okay, thank you to everyone who voted. So the poll was, do you have an Office 365 account? And 83% of you have said yes, which is fantastic. 10% no, and 7% of you are unsure. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, you will know more about this, how you can go about setting up an account and using the account to its full ability if you do have one. So thank you very much for voting. I'm going to hand over now to Jennifer, who is going to share a little bit more about the platform itself.
Hello, everyone. I am Jennifer Paige from Microsoft UK, and thank you so much for having me on this webinar. It's so wonderful to have so many of you here and interested in hearing about how we can carry on governance of our schools while we're in this unprecedented time. So just a little introduction about myself. I would love to connect with all of you. So I've provided my Twitter handle at Jen King and 2 underscores. And also LinkedIn. Please look me up. Let's connect. I'm here to support you and your schools as we work through this, this difficult time of moving into remote learning. I am the UK Schools Engagement Lead, so I work at Microsoft here in the UK. Previously, I was the Director of Education for the 21st Century Job Skills and Employability team in Seattle. And previous to that, I was an education consultant. And previous to that, I was an educator and head of department here in the UK. So all of my teaching and has been here in the UK with a little bit of time in the US. And so, and I'm also a governor at a school. So I have firsthand knowledge of some of the struggles that we're all facing at this point in time. So do get in touch. I really encourage you to reach out. Microsoft is here to support you. So I just want to talk a little bit about this shift that is happening right now between really having to change our mindset. And that's the largest challenge that we're all facing right now. And even outside of schools, we have you know, a population that is no longer, or a portion of the population is no longer going to work. And so I just want to think about what did it mean to go to school a couple weeks ago when you actually were going to a brick and mortar school. And obviously school is carrying on for those key workers, but just speaking in generalities of what was the majority of that experience of going to a school. And so the student would go to a school and they would be expected to receive an excellent education of modern learning, where they may have an interactive whiteboard, they may have a laptop cart, they would be working in groups, they would be having a social experience. They would know they were safe in that school. All visitors would need to sign in, that there wouldn't be anyone on site who was a danger to them, that their teachers, you know, cared and loved for them, and that all of their data and the confidentiality was protected, and that they would be there to be with their friends and with their teachers and to have that sense of community. A local school is much more than just the education that happens. It is a center of the community where parents and community leaders congregate and meet to be able to talk about the issues that are most important to us, and take care of the little ones that are most important to us, and then also thinking about the students that go to that school. This is their main social connection, and how they learn to grow and become citizens. And then we also would expect that all the students that attend that school would have the learning would be accessible to them, that they would receive the special needs would be cared for, that each student would be differentiated for, and no matter their background or their ability, they would have an inclusive education. And all of that was a challenge to meet when we were in a brick and mortar school. And so what do we do now when going to school today looks like this, where the students are now going to a device. They're going to, maybe they're looking at a mobile phone to have access, or the family desktop, or perhaps they have a laptop or a device in the house. What does that look like when we go to school? How do we provide that excellent modern learning experience? How do we ensure that our students are safe and secure when we no longer have them in front of us? How do we ensure their data is secure? How do we ensure they're having that community and sense of connection with others? And accessibility and inclusivity and equity is very difficult today to consider. And so it's up to us as governors, really, to do our due diligence. It's important for us to come together and really do the assessments and do the hard thinking that needs to happen to make sure that we're reaching all students' needs, that there's an equity assessment that's happening for all the technologies that you, or the type of remote learning that you're putting into place. But also that the governing body has a data protection officer who is completing an impact assessment and making sure that all of the innovative technologies being used are safe to use, they're secure to use, and making sure that due diligence is happening. And so we have lots of stakeholders in a school that we have to think about. We need to think about the teachers. Teachers need tools that allow them to connect with students to help them learn. We have the head teachers and the SLT of the school, where they need a safe and secure platform to ensure that continuity of education while caring for the well-being of their community. And we have parents who are now a major audience within a school because they're now the teachers at home, and they need to be supported by the school so they can support their child's needs. And then we have the governors. And the governors as a stakeholder need to ensure that you carry on the duties of school governance by regularly meeting, being able to share and collaborate on documents, and staying connected to provide the school with strategic direction at this critical time. There really is no time that's more critical for governors to provide that strategic direction than now. And then, of course, we have the student, the modern learner, the young person that we really are most concerned about. Why the teachers show up every day, why we are governors at schools. It's to ensure that the future generations are ready for life after school. And so we think about, who is this modern learner and what do they need? What do we have to be focusing on? And so we know that they need to have assignments, they need to have a schedule, there needs to be a curriculum that's robust that they can follow. They need to be able to take notes. They have to be safe by using through safeguarding. They need to have progress and feedback. They need to be able to talk to their teacher and ask questions. They want to be able to see their teacher, watch interactive media, be able to consume lots of different types of media, but also to create things as well, not just consume. Being able to interact with their technology, but knowing that while they do all of this, they're safe through their identity. Luckily, the use of today's technologies and teaching and learning environments addresses the needs of the modern learner, and it also addresses today's remote learning challenges. At Microsoft, we've been working on this for a very long time, and not with the expectation at all that we would have a remote learning situation like this. But it just so happens that a lot of our technologies address the situation relatively straightforward and easily. When we think about how we want technology to impact teaching and learning environments, we know that we want to be able to provide flexible learning options for unique and diverse learners. We want to foster 21st century learning design where educators are thinking about collaboration, communication, and creativity when they think of their lesson activities and the platforms that they choose. We want to make sure that students are future ready for a modern world, that they're using the technologies that they'll be using in the world of work, but they're also building that digital literacy they need to be able to navigate their world where computing is ubiquitous. And we want to ensure safe and secure access to student data for everyone, making sure that only the right people have access to the right documents and the right data. And we also want to make sure that the student data is used to make excellent decision making. So the answer to being able to do all of those things is by us changing our mindset from going to a brick and mortar school to going to school in the cloud. And we can do this through Office 365. 83% of you have said that you have Office 365, which is wonderful. I hope that meant your school has Office 365 and not necessarily you personally or the business that you work for. But hopefully your school has Office 365. And this is where the journey to remote learning really begins. Office 365 allows for students to have that modern learning experience. It's safe and secure. It provides students the ability to have a collaboration platform that fosters community, and it's accessible and inclusive. Accessibility and inclusivity is a pillar for Microsoft. We believe that every student should be empowered, and so we have tools to help that happen. Just a little overview of Office 365 and what it is. So Office 365 is for everyone at the school. If the school has an Office 365 license, it can be used for teacher accounts, student accounts, staff accounts, and governor accounts, ensuring that every person that is involved in the school community is connected with each other in a safe and secure environment. Office 365 offers our whole host of productivity tools: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the ones that you know and love, as well as Outlook, Access, Publisher, OneDrive for sharing documents, SharePoint, and having OneNote and Teams. OneNote and Teams absolutely brings this all to life, and I'll be talking about this later. Office 365 has always been and will continue to be free for education institutions. The A1 license is free and it provides you everything you see here on the screen. We do have other licensing options, A3 and A5. If you have the A3 or A5, excuse me, you receive the Office Pro Plus downloads, which means that every teacher and student and staff and governor at the school receives 5 downloads of the Office client apps to 5 devices. This means that they'll be able to access the client version of all of the tools that you see on the screen. They'll also have access to Teams Live, which is our webinar service, where you'll be able to have a vast number of people being able to join the webinar, and they'll be able to interact in a semi-live environment. But just thinking about Office 365 A1, the free version that's available to all schools in the UK, you will interact with Office 365 through office.com. And this is how the governors would be able to work as having their licenses, having their identities accounts provisioned within the school's Office 365 account, and they would access it through office.com, where they would log in using their school's email address. It does require a bit of a mind shift. The governors are going to have to move from doing their work in their personal emails into doing their work within the secured environment of the school. This is safer. It protects document privacy. It ensures that documents are not leaked, that they all stay internal. So it is a lot safer for school governors to use their school email addresses within a secure environment rather than using personal emails to exchange confidential documents. You'll be able to customize the experience with school logos and colors. You'll be able to add third-party education apps. But the best part is there's nothing to install. You can just get started right from your web. You're also able to access it from anywhere. You can access your files and data from any activated device, anywhere on any platform at any time. This means you can do it on Android, you can do it iOS, you can do Windows 10, everything from a mobile phone to a desktop. You're able to manage email, join meetings, and edit documents. And you're able to share and collaborate documents directly from OneDrive, which is excellent. You don't have to email. It really lightens up that email load if you're able to work collaboratively on documents through OneDrive and Teams. And it allows you to provide access to everyone in your organization so that you're able to collaborate with the people that you need to collaborate with most. Security is so important to Microsoft. We have a phrase at Microsoft that we use often that says Microsoft runs on trust. The fact that Microsoft runs on trust is why others trust us to run their systems. We have the NHS, the Met Police, so many departments in the government like the Cabinet Office and HMRC. They all run Office 365 and Teams because of the security of it. It's unparalleled. We have 3 pillars in our security, in our trust principles: security, privacy, and compliance. You can learn much more about these if you go to our trust principles websites. But really the important thing is that our president of Microsoft, Brad Smith, and our chief legal officer has put this as a pillar. If we can't protect people, then we don't deserve their trust. I encourage you to read the latest security blog that just came out yesterday by our CVP of Microsoft 365, Jared Sapatro, and he runs through in detail how secure, from every element of Office 365, how secure our platform is, and I really encourage you to do that. So let's talk a little bit about what Office 365 looks like for teaching and learning. So Office 365 empowers teachers and students with a modern classroom experience, and they can do this from their home. Their school is now their device. As opposed to them doing it at a desk together, they're able to all do it to work on their work together from their own homes. Teachers are able to allocate more time towards personalized instruction and higher impact activities. The teachers do not have to spend their time working with students physically in the same space, which much of that time at school is spent doing other tasks than instruction necessarily. And so teachers can really focus this time on making sure that they are giving each student the most differentiated experience, and they are thinking of the highest impact activities. Right now, parents aren't able to complete and support, particularly at the primary level, support their students to complete an entire timetable that would be in place during a traditional school day. So teachers have to spend their time making sure that activities are personalized and highly impactful. They are able to create opportunities to develop emotional and cognitive skills. Having students connect with each other, being able to use chat, being able to talk about their emotions, being able to create portfolios, this is all essential right now. And fostering personalized, inclusive, immersive, and collaborative learning experiences for the students. Going back to those 3 C's of remote learning, of collaboration, communication, and creativity. Making sure that students are able to collaborate together, that they're not just going to a website and watching something, but rather they are working together in groups towards a common goal. Students who receive personalized instruction perform better than 98% of traditionally taught students. Personalized instruction doesn't get any better than on Teams, where teachers are able to interact directly with the student, giving very detailed feedback at regular intervals and being able to personalize that student's experience. Primary schools that have embraced digitally enabled learning report a 30% increase in competency scores. This is excellent, and this is work that can carry on after we go back to school as well. So creating an engaged digital classroom really depends on using Teams. Microsoft Teams is the digital hub that brings everything together in one place. Office 365 is a great space for secure documents. You're able to share them through OneDrive. You can collaborate on a Word document or a PowerPoint document, but it all really comes alive for the classroom when you use Teams. And Teams integrates with so many different products, such as Flipgrid, where you're able to think about not just synchronous learning, where teachers would log in and see their classes live through a team meeting, but also asynchronous learning, where you're able to film video and have students respond to it using Flipgrid. If you don't know Flipgrid, I totally recommend you check it out. It's a great application as part of the Microsoft family, where you're able to create a grid of videos based on a topic, and students can record themselves responding to a teacher request. Perhaps it's a funk, or perhaps it's a word problem, or perhaps it's just checking them on how they're feeling that day. And they are all collated in a grid-like format, where students are also able to respond back to each other. So why do we want to use Microsoft Teams for learning? It creates a consistent, familiar experience across all devices. Schools need to consider that multiple platforms creates a lot of noise and churn for students and parents. Just having one platform that's consistent on all of their devices really saves a lot of time and makes it more likely that students will stay engaged. Real-time co-authoring allows for that collaboration to happen, ensuring that the teaching is happening within a life cycle where you're having blended learning and flipped learning. You're having instruction before, you are able to connect on a Teams call, but then you have the assignments after. We have accessibility built in with live captions to ensure that everyone can follow along during the session, as well as translator. We have adaptive, resilient audio and video, which works over poor bandwidth. That's one of Teams' strengths, is that it continues to work even when bandwidth is very low. We have enterprise-grade security, compliance, and manageability within Office 365. High-quality learning experiences that scale from 2 to 10,000 attendees, and you can manage all your files and video content with Office 365 services. We're backed by an ecosystem of dedicated partners. So when you're on Office 365 and you're using Teams, many of the things that you still use in your classroom can show up just within Teams, and it prevents students from having to leave the Teams space to go out and interact with those websites. Kahoot is a great example. Most teachers love Kahoot for interactive quizzes, and there's no reason they can't continue doing that. They can now just do it through Teams. We also have a selection of partners who are here to help do teaching and learning, from managed services to helping come in and do professional development. Another thing to consider are the analytics that come with Office 365. Having data is so important, particularly now, considering child protection, thinking about attendance, thinking about tracking student attainment. Right now, we have a little bit of a black hole that's happening. So we need to have technology fill that to understand how are our students doing? What are their behaviors? Are they logging in? Are they doing what they need to be doing? Are they increasing in their knowledge? And so using Power BI and Microsoft Azure, we have AI and machine learning built into most of our products. We have cognitive services and bots. Schools are able to create apps that reduce workflow using the Power platform. And so all of that really brings the schools to life and takes it to the next level to deal with all of that data that we work with every day as governors. Microsoft is also accessible and inclusive, first and foremost. This is so important. Windows 10 has built-in accessibility features everywhere, whether it's the magnifier where you're able to magnify a part of a screen, or it's the narrator where it can read out to you, or perhaps it's the dictation keyboard where someone is able to read to the keyboard instead of having to type. We also have Immersive Reader built in across Office 365, where you're able to take a block of text, have it read out to you while also having the words highlighted. You can change the spacing, you can change the colors of the background, all to work with students who have learning disabilities. And we have Translator. For those of you that are at schools that have a high proportion of non-English speaking students, Translator is amazing. It's going to allow those students to have access to English texts and English speaking teachers that they can hear it in their original language. So how do we get there? Well, it starts with thinking about the strategic planning of how you're going to train your teachers, and also thinking about how do you support the parents. So making sure that we adopt the technology in the classroom and train teachers easily and quickly, we have 3 options. We have the Microsoft Educator Center. This is a free online platform where you're able to go and earn badges, certificates, professional development credits. We have now launched an amazing learning path called Getting Started with Remote Learning in Office 365. It covers learning for teachers, student well-being, distance learning, and it also has a family resource center that allows parents to go and check out all the activities that Microsoft has from a STEM perspective. The Microsoft Educator Center also allows the teachers who complete around 2 courses, they become Microsoft Innovative Educators. And this is a great badge that they can add to their CV. It really adds to their credentials professionally. But then once they start using it in the classroom, they can apply to become Microsoft Innovative Educator experts and join my community at Microsoft of some of the top educators across the country. We also have webinars that we host. So you can attend a workshop either in real time or on demand, where we run through all the best practices of remote learning. Most recently, we had Cornerstone on talking about how a primary school is doing distance learning. We had Ribblesdale High School from up north who was talking about how they're handling remote learning in a secondary school situation. We've also talked through top tips and tricks for Office 365, and we're going to have webinars coming up on safeguarding and teaching and learning methodologies. We also have training available with our partners in our community. We want to leverage our network of education specialists to help train, mentor, and support you to build this digital classroom. You are not alone in this. We have a whole selection of global training partners across the country that are ready to support you, as well as Microsoft Training Academies, which are our showcase schools dotted throughout the country who are here to help you move to remote learning. Specifically for help with teams, we have a lot of resources, particularly these 3 webinars. They will get you going from 0 to hero in about 2 hours with Teams. So if your school has Office 365 but isn't using Teams, I really encourage you to watch these webinars. They're also available on YouTube. There is a Teams beginner course on the Microsoft Educator community. And we have a global remote learning community that you are welcome to join by that link. And that will connect you with schools from all over the world who are going through the same journey you are. I'll be providing this deck and all of the links in the webinar window. I'll be attaching it after my talk. Microsoft realizes how important this is for schools right now. We are at an unprecedented time. We want to make sure that schools are able to continue their students' education. We are here to help you. Microsoft has Office 365 A1 has always been free. It will continue to be free. But we want to help schools get deployed and enabled as soon as possible. So we're making our enterprise level FastTrack service free to all schools across the UK. This is a free deployment and enablement for schools. So we'll come in, we'll talk about what your needs are. Well, we'll come in remotely, talk about your needs. We'll remediate any issues that you're having. We'll turn on the software. We'll enable it for your staff, your students, your governors. We'll migrate your data and help you with your adoption. So please take advantage of this amazing resource available to schools at this point. So how do you get access to FastTrack? Well, all schools are eligible, so you just need to be a school. You can click on that FastTrack link, or you can email fasttrack@microsoft.com, FTCRFA@microsoft.com, and we'll be able to get you set up for FastTrack. So I really thank you for giving me your time today. I really appreciate you listening. As I said, please connect with me. Please take up the opportunity for FastTrack. We are here to help you. And now I'd like to turn it over to Henry Massey from Cornerstone Academy Trust, who is using Teams for his governing body as the head of trustees. So Henry, I will hand over to you.
Hello, hopefully you can see my screen and there are no issues there. I'm going to start off by doing a little bit of a background about our school. So the Cornerstone Academy Trust was initially a primary school within Broadclist in Devon, and we became a multi-academy trust a few years ago. And initially we opened a free school, which is Westclist, and then more recently we've sponsored a school in North Devon at Yo Valley. We're also building a new free school at the moment, which is due to open in December. I think at the moment they've stopped building, so it will open at some stage, hopefully later this year or next year. We also run a teaching school and an English hub and a computing hub. As a school, we've always been very well known for youth education. We provide one-to-one access to devices at Key Stage 2 and 1-to-2, 1-to-3 sort of ratio at Key Stage 1. In fact, at Yo Valley, our school in North Devon, which has probably a greater level of deprivation, we've been equipping the school with a far greater ratio of devices. We've been using Windows 10, Office 365, Teams and OneNote for a number of years now. And we also use a range of external third-party subscriptions. We haven't started using Teams and OneNote just now. I mean, they're absolutely clear. We've been using this as part of our trustee management for at least the last 3 or 4 years. What I've opened up here is our view of our normal team system. As you can see, when we're using Teams, we have our trustees area. We have our lab, which as a multi-academy trust, our lab is also known as your local governing body in some schools. We have our EdTech demonstrator school area as well, and home working support. Now, not all trustees have the home working support area. I do, so if parents do have any issues, I'm able to drop in and provide additional support. If I move forward and look at one of our areas, this is a fairly typical channel that we have in place within Teams. This is our help desk team working there. If I fast forwards, here is one of our more general lab ones. This is the Broadclist local area board. And you'll see here we've got a message here from one of the class teachers, Matt Pitts, sharing the latest copy of Keeping Children Safe in Education. I'm sure you're all very familiar with that. Moving on, here is our more general trustee chat. You can see the message at the bottom here, just out from the government, quite helpful. Stay-at-home guidance, so very relevant to where we are now. Any information which comes out that has to be shared is shared to all trustees via this method. We don't just use Teams to chat using the chat function, share information. We also use it as a telephony system as well. So all of our trustees, or majority of them, have Teams on their mobile phones and are able to take Teams calls. Whilst I sit at my desk at work, the head teacher, the CEO, will give me a call via Teams on my computer, and we can chat and share information. See. And here's a quick view of my own Teams. Looking through here, we've got a snapshot of teachers. We've got the business manager on here. We've got the vice chair of trustees on there. So everyone's very available for a call. And just to mix things up, there's my daughter on there as well as at the school. Even voicemails come through. You can't escape voicemails. Device management is absolutely crucial. What we decided to do a number of years ago, in fact 5 years ago now, is provide all trustees with their own Surface device. So we initially had Surface Pro 3s or 4s. We now have the Surface Go's. The benefit of giving every trustee their own device is that, one, we can lock it down. So if you lose a device, we can remote wipe it, or we can make it inaccessible. Secondly, because it's our device, we know it's going to work properly. It's set up correctly. It's just going to function. We don't have the problems of people saying, oh, I've installed some different software, it's not working correctly. We know that by giving everyone a device, it's going to work. We have a sign-out procedure. We use a cloud management software package. We have e-safety software in there as well. And we have a help desk and remote access. So we can log on if a trustee has problems remotely, we can access their system, and we can sort any problems out without them needing to come into school. What we've also done is had to upskill some of our trustees. Actually, I have to say the majority of our trustees are very IT competent. We select trustees based on their skills. And one of the skills we expect someone to have in the modern workforce are general IT skills. Now, that is not an age barrier. I think our oldest trustee is 73 years old. He's incredibly good with using OneNote and all of our tools. Our youngest is probably in their mid-30s. Everyone can use IT, and if people couldn't use IT, we have the ability to upskill them. We have e-safety training, which takes place on a regular basis. We have webinars that trustees can join, and of course, in normal times, we run class-based training for our trustees. We also built a dedicated support website. It's called homelearning.education, which isn't just for trustees, that's also for parents. E-safety is taken very seriously, and you can look down here that we monitor all access to surfaces, not just for trustees, but also for any of our pupils. At the moment, any pupils who wish to take home surfaces and use them for home learning have that ability, and we continue to monitor what they're doing on each device. This is an example in front of the info log that we get, and takes us through some of the information we get back. Here's a dashboard that we use again for monitoring access and what people are doing on their devices. Again, by providing our trustees with surfaces, we are far more able to do that. Right, and this is a view here of the home learning website that we built for trustees and parents. We actually put this website together in 8 hours 3 weeks ago when we realized that attending meetings and coming to the school wouldn't be practical going forwards. There's the help desk system where you can submit support tickets if you have any problems, again for trustees and parents. And that now takes us on to OneNote. So we use OneNote to share the information, which is then viewed using Teams. Dropping into OneNote, first of all, we have background information. So we have the Academy's Financial Handbook for 2019 on here. As an example, on the right-hand side, you can see that trustees can read the Governance Handbook. They can read, they can access the key. There are a whole range of documents, even the code of conduct is on there. You don't have to go delving through lots of paperwork to find the key information. If I was actually to backtrack, before we had this level of IT, in my house I had a drawer, filing cabinet drawer, filled with all the documents I was given when I became a governor many years ago, from governor training to copies of minutes to agendas to lots of financial documents, an entire filing cabinet drawer. These days I have one device. It contains everything: documentation, meeting notes. I can draw it back to any meeting we've had in the last 3 years and view the minutes. Furthermore, our members, as an academy, we have members who are a separate level and who have an oversight over what trustees or governors do. They're able to log in as well and read minutes and read any documentation that we have shared. So fast forwarding, we've got another one here, an actual main governing body meeting. On the right-hand side, you can see all the various sections of the meeting, and we lodge all the papers in here before the meeting, so you can log in maybe a week before the meeting and do all your prior reading. We also have password protected areas. So anything which is of a confidential nature or highly confidential nature, for instance, staffing, which has to be in a Part B, therefore might not be accessible to everyone, we have an additional password. Trustees are aware of that password and can log in as required. It's not just used to share the more dry information, financial information. As you can see here, the teachers also upload pictures of latest events in the school. So any trustees who have been able to get to the school in the last few weeks can come along and just have a snapshot of what's actually going on at the school at the moment. As you can see there, we've got the World Book Day from a few weeks ago. The children did a visit to Cheddar Gorge and down to Morwell Quay. Here's an example of our agenda. And you would scroll down and as I said a few seconds before, you can view all the associated papers at the same time. Here's an example of our financial planning software. So we can add screenshots or links to various pieces of software we're using. Again, all the information you need for a meeting is here. This is actually from our trustee finance meeting. And again, everything you need is available in a single location. Moving on to the actual virtual meetings, I don't have any screenshots of our meetings, but I've just taken one here of a teacher meeting with pupils, which is going on every day during term time now. We are delivering full classes right now virtually. So the children at Broadcliff Community Primary School or Westcliff or Monkton Primary Schools start school at 9 o'clock in the morning where they have registration, and they have an entire day of classroom activities with their teacher. And we can do that happily with 30 children in a classroom and a teacher. So as for trustees who are all supposedly adults, we don't find managing meetings too hard. In fact, if you go back beyond the recent viral outbreak, we've been having trustees attending meetings virtually for at least the last 3 or 4 years. I'd say traditionally the ratio has been about 70%, 30%. About 70% of trustees attend the meetings physically with 30% online. All that's changed for us in the last 3 weeks is the ratio has now hit 100%. Everyone's going online. But we've been doing it anyway, so there's nothing particularly new for us. How do we do it? Well, trustees tend to go to a quiet room in their house, have a home office, maybe even their bedroom, somewhere where children don't walk in or the pet dog doesn't jump on your knee whilst you're talking, and you do the meeting from there. We know the devices are going to work, and we find that most people's home broadband is absolutely fine for what you need to be able to do. Okay, I'll pause here and hand over for any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Henry. Okay, so we have a couple questions that have come in. My colleague, Alan, he's going to answer a couple and I will answer a couple. So the first question I have here is from Hans Peter, asking that he uses Apple Tech at home and doesn't have Office 365. Does that mean I can still use Teams? And the answer is absolutely. The Office 365 account will come from your school. The school will need to have Office 365 as opposed to you personally. They will provision you an account and give you a login detail with an email address and username. You will log in via office.com and you will have access to all of the productivity tools that come in Office 365. And it's accessible across all platforms just through your browser. And so I'll hand over to Alan to answer the next question that is about file sharing. There's someone who already uses Teams for their board documents, archives, and chats, but we've been asking if we can have separate channels. So Alan, would you like to answer that one?
Sure, thank you very much. So the question there was about how you can have separate channels in Microsoft Teams. In a team, you can have up to 200 channels in a team and also 30 private channels. Those private channels allow you to subdivide the team where you can invite different people in with different files that are available. The one thing to remember about Microsoft Teams is everybody who is in the team can see every file and every conversation unless that channel is a private channel.
I've had a question, by the way, regarding about how to dial into a meeting, how to record a meeting, and how you can chat in Teams. Is it worthwhile I answer that question?
Yeah, sure. There's hundreds of questions there for you, Henry. I can see them all coming in now. So I'm going to answer as many as I can while you answer that.
What I'll do is I'll just share my screen again. Hopefully, can you see my Teams window on right now?
We can.
Great. I'm going to be careful because it's actually proper live Teams now rather than pre-recorded, so I have to hope that my fellow trustees don't at this point say anything which they shouldn't. But how do we chat? First of all, I go to the chat function on the left-hand side here. So Cornerstone, the actual trustees, there's actually a meeting going on right now. I'm not chairing it because I'm talking to you, but I can click into that meeting, which is right here. And I can actually see that there's a few comments down here that Jonathan Bishop, who's our CEO, has hi Stuart. And this is being recorded at the moment. If I was actually to, this is a bit risky, I will just join this, see what happens. So I'm actually now joining a real live meeting.
Number 9.
Jonathan.
Coming back to.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'm just joining now with a few people watching the screen. You're now currently broadcasting to about 500 people. I'm just using this as a demo of what a real life meeting looks like. It sounds possibly a bit contrived. There happens to be a trustee meeting going on whilst I'm giving a presentation. But this is now you're now live, and I'm just demonstrating how I dropped into an actual meeting and messed it up by asking the person talking to stop talking partway through. As you can see, Jonathan right now is sharing his screen. And is talking, I believe, to probably about 10 trustees who are currently on board watching this session. Jonathan, is there anything you'd like to add at this stage?
No, welcome. And yes, we are not contrived a trustees meeting. We have regular catch-ups, even though it's during the Easter holiday. And today, in particular, you can probably see on my screen, I've shared the OneNote notebook, which is embedded in the team that we're collaborating through at the moment. And our agenda is really focused around the holiday opening. We've just been discussing very specific safeguarding issues that we're still picking up with some of our more vulnerable families over the Easter holidays. We're going to be looking at the free school meal voucher scheme versus food hampers. We actually trade in terms of our nursery and our dining service more externally, and so therefore we've got lots of budget, and we're going to be looking at budget implications and also pay rises that come into effect at the next payday being April. So you can see quite a comprehensive set of matters to discuss in this meeting. Is that helpful?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'll hang up now and drop out. Those people, by the way, asking about recording, you'll notice here that the host, Jonathan, who's host this one here, hit the recording button at the start of the meeting, and that's how you do that. As for scheduling the meeting, whoever set this one up, again, if it's Jonathan, you add a meeting invite from within Outlook, and you can actually add a Teams meeting from within Outlook, and the email that gets sent out has a link. So all people have to do is follow the link or follow the dial-in number that's in the same invite, and they will drop straight into the meeting. Okay, Jonathan and the rest of the team there, I'll hang up and leave you in peace.
Thanks, Henry. Nice to chat.
So there is a demo of an actual real life trustee meeting taking place right now. As for the various other things we have, you can see down here the various other conversations that have taken place over the last few weeks. Hopefully that does at least answer the question about how you get into a meeting, how you record a meeting, and how we communicate there.
Thank you so much, Henry. Always great to jump in on an actual
Unannounced
meeting.
into a meeting. I think I handled that fairly well, actually.
Oh, that was good. So I have seen some questions about safeguarding and video conferencing, and I just want to sort of go back to remind you of the slide where we think about what does a student do when they go to school at a brick and mortar school versus when they go to school in the cloud. Safeguarding is safeguarding, regardless of whether it happens on technology or it happens in person. It is almost a one-to-one transfer of your safeguarding policies that you have in school to the safeguarding policies you need to have for your tech use. Your school should have an IT user policy. This should be signed by students and by parents. There should be decisions in place and policies in place to decide how you want to work with one-to-one communications as an example. Some schools choose to have all one-to-one communications between a parent and between a student and a teacher to be recorded and to be calendared in an Outlook calendar, so there's record of it. Others ensure that students only take their calls from a public space in the house. So there's all different types of ways to handle safeguarding issues. But the most important thing is that you do it within a safe and secure environment, and that video calls are not being conducted through consumer software, but rather all students are logging on to Office 365 in a monitorable, supervised environment where the exchanges are able to be tracked and supervised. So that really is the main thing. But the level of leniency, or whatever word you'd like to use there, lies with the school to make the decision on what they would like to do with their tech.
I did also add as well, with the homelearning.education website that we put together as a school a few weeks ago, we have a number of pages on there on e-safety. So it covers what you should do at home, and the types of things we'll be teaching, and our expectations as a school to what parents and children at home particularly need to do. We've also made a few videos on there as well. I've just shared a link actually via the chat function, but if you can't see that, it's just homelearning.education, and that will talk about all the things that we have done as an Academy Trust.
Thank you. There's also a few questions on here around being at a primary school that doesn't necessarily have the technical ability, and that I appreciate. Many schools around the country have a very skeleton staff that doesn't necessarily have an IT administrator or someone there, and that's why teacher professional development is so important, and why our FastTrack program is critical right now. Ensuring that you use the FastTrack service, where they will come in, they will set everything up for you, and then moving on to a plan for teacher professional development using online sources like the Microsoft Educator Center, and also using webinars and our global training partners who are able to do that teaching. This is a huge growth mindset scenario right now. This is how we are going to be teaching our children. This is not a stopgap measure for just the next week or so. We need to be thinking about how are we going to teach our children in this manner. And just like teachers go have regular professional development to learn about new ways of teaching maths or learning about the new phonics curriculums, they need to be having professional development in remote learning. And that really comes down to ensuring that the leadership at the school is putting that time in and a plan in for professional development and evaluation of the software.
just quickly, we're running out of time a bit, but we've got quite a few questions coming in around clerking. So as a clerk to a governing board, you're able to use Microsoft Teams to record the meeting. If this is helpful to then listen back to it afterwards, you can save a file of this recording and share it with anyone in your chat. You're also able to set up separate chats within Teams. So if you only wanted certain people in the governing board to be in a conversation around a committee and things like that, so you're able to manage clerking aspects of that, record the meeting, and then hopefully that will be helpful in terms of taking minutes. Obviously, anyone in the call is able to mute themselves at any point as well to avoid typing, affecting speaking over people and things like that. So there are functions which might make minuting even easier.
Wonderful. Well, we do have so many questions. There have been so many questions that have come in. I don't know whether or not we can continue answering them and that people will have access to the answers. I'm not sure about that. Perhaps Elena, you know. But if we can, we will continue answering questions. Please do get in touch. We will be hosting more webinars, so do use the links that will be provided, and the document will be uploaded very shortly. So I'll hand back over to Eleanor. Thank you all so much for your time, and wishing you all a very safe Easter break.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time and for listening. This recording will be going up on our website along with the slides shortly. So hopefully you'll be able to share it around with anyone who is able to not attend today. And we will continue to support you in the best way we can. And if we get lots of questions about where to find support, then hopefully we'll be able to do what we can to signpost and provide this support. So thank you, everyone, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.